If you're an Android user and you're looking for a new way to listen to your podcast while you're quarantined, you should check out the Podcast Republic app on the Google Play Store. Of course, you could check it out whether or not you're quarantined. I was just trying to be timely and topical.
It's not a quarantine trip. It's social distancing. Quarantine is a scary word.
Self-quarantining. Whatever. Everybody should just stay home as much as you can. Wash your hands often. We're all going to get through
and
this.
Sometimes your governor demands that you do that, like my governor.
Yes. But that is not about Podcast Republic, which is a great app for listening to podcasts and available on the Google Play Store. There's thousands of good reviews. Check them out if you're an Android user. A lot of listeners to this show came to us through the app, and we're really grateful for that. So I want to keep reminding people of how good it is. So go check out the Podcast Republic app on the Google Play Store. Welcome to Dissecting the 80s. I am Trip Lano, one half of the Mega Podcasting Powers, and with me, as always, is a man who is also self-quarantining, social distancing, isolating, the Macho Andrew.
Andrew Lano. Yeah, my one job shut down, and then a week later, my full-time job shut down. So now I'm home a lot. So... Like any good gay and social distancing, I've painted my nails.
Yes, they're red and gold.
It's like
keeping score.
It's like a confetti.
It's like a sparkly.
Yeah.
Gold.
So the color is called Rainbow Connection. It was part of a Muppets line that Mom had because I went there to do laundry.
It looks like kind of like mango shorts from the Chris Kattan SNL sketch.
I'll take it. I was going for like a Harley Quinn caution tape jacket, but yeah.
Yeah. I have not painted my nails, but I have been painting them.
Social distancing is young.
I have been painting them with stuff to make me stop biting them.
Oh, you've gone back to the bite?
Important than ever. I've done it a few times. I'm on a different product now because I broke my old bottle of that stuff, but I figured it's more important than ever to not be
I didn't know you were back to the bite. I thought you had stopped that.
Oh, no, I cycle off for like 3 months and then I go back with a vengeance and then I have to cycle off again. It's not good.
Your poor nails.
Anyway, no one cares about this. Literally no one could possibly care about this. It's April
Our mom does.
6th when you're listening to this. It's April 6th when you're listening to this. There was supposed to be a new James Bond movie in theaters. There isn't because of coronavirus, but we decided to forge ahead and do it for this podcast anyway. So... we watched Never Say Never Again, so you know what that means.
We gotta go back. We gotta go dissect the 80s. It's your old-ass secret agent. Some guy been about your old-ass secret agent.
When the mega powers explode.
I'm talking about the 80s. Oh, yeah.
Great Scott!
Cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
Mega powers, yeah!
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
This movie, real quick, it's 1983. The guy who wrote the original Thunderball has managed to, after a long... or I guess it's not 1983, that's when that came out, but it's in the 70s or 80s. The man who wrote the original Thunderball script somehow manages to get the rights back to it after a long legal battle and decides he's basically going to remake his own movie.
I honestly... this movie feels like one long fan fiction, like a James Bond fanfic.
It does have a little bit of fan fiction. Although I will say, like, all of James Bond kind of has that feel to me.
But like this just feels such a. I mean, I'm not a James Bond connoisseur. I've seen the one or two we've watched for the pod.
This is only the second one for the pod.
Okay, yeah, and then I've seen Odd Job. I've seen that one, I think.
Yeah, I believe that's Dr. No or Goldfinger.
I've seen...
the two best ones, in my opinion, are Dr. No and Goldfinger.
I've seen most of, if not all of Goldfinger. And I've seen, like, the opening credits sequence to, I want to say Casino Royale, where he's, like, on scaffolding and, like, in a building that's under construction. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like that one a lot. I would say there are, like, 20 to 30 Bond movies. I can get the... they're in that ballpark. I think there's like 5 really, truly good ones. And then another tier of like very watchable, easily consumed, fun ones. And then another tier of bad ones. And I think this one is firmly in that second tier of like, this is fun and stupid. It's all James Bond movies are too long. They just are like, they all are well over 2 hours. So there's 25 in the regular Bond series. When the new one comes out, that'll be the 25th Bond. And then this one and another one that are not technically canon.
Okay.
Because this one, like I said, so the original writer, Kevin McClory, had written the script for Thunderball, which was also a Sean Connery movie, and he ended up retaining the rights to it. So he had the rights to make that exact story again. So he made this, and then actually, in doing the research while watching this movie, he tried to do another one of these where he was going to remake it again, and
another Thunderball.
Yes, it was going to be the third time this story was adapted by the same writer, but instead of
I hate that
Connery, they were gonna bring Timothy Dalton back because he had left Bonds. He did 2 Bonds, and then he was out of the series. So they were gonna do the same thing again, where they're like, we'll bring in the old. It was during the Pierce Brosnan era. They were like, we'll bring in the old guy and then do another one of these stories.
I just don't understand why this specific Bond story,
because it's the only one you could make if you weren't the Broccoli family. It wasn't, they're literally the only, it's sort of like the Ashcan copy thing where you make the movie to retain the rights to make the movie later, where they made, I think we've talked about this briefly on the podcast, but there was a Fantastic Four adaptation by Roger Corman, noted schlock director Roger Corman, who I like very much. Wait a minute,
he directed that one with Kate Mara?
No, the one that came out, like they literally produced and filmed the whole movie and then never released it. They just had to make it in order for it in order to retain the rights.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the recent one.
Well, the recent one is also similarly. The rumor is that that's the reason they made that one too.
I didn't see it, but God, I heard it's terrible.
Yeah, but so in 1997 they were gonna do another adaptation called Warhead 2000 AD with Timothy Dalton, but that had never happened. So what happened here was basically Connery had left Bond in the 70s. I think it was 17 years before, and when he left it, he was like, I'm never going to do that again. And so that's why the title is Never Say Never Again, because
and it fucking shows he doesn't want to be here.
I disagree. That's really interesting to me. I don't feel that way at all. And I actually think he is way better at being Bond still in his old age than the Roger Moore performance we watched when we did View to a Kill, who looks over it.
I mean,
12 years
it's
apart.
been a while since View to a Kill, so I don't 100% remember everything. But it just, I don't know. He's like a little tooth, long in the tooth.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely is, but
it just doesn't seem like he wants to be here. The script doesn't make any sense. It's a fan fiction where like it's a new boss who wants to change things up with Bonds, and I'm like, what? Why are we like? There's a formula that works. Clearly it works. Don't try and change that.
Interesting. Well, we'll get into it. I feel like
he gets sent to a goop, episode. Like basically a goop camp in the first for the first 20 minutes.
Yes. Well, let's get into it. So we start with Bond's there.
Not a Bond song. Also, this is not a Bond song. This is an old health class video song.
I mean, it's not good, but I think all Bond songs are bad, as I have said before.
I know, and you're wrong. But like, there is a sound to a Bond song. Like, there is a way a Bond song should sound, and this literally sounds like this song should be played over like flowers blossoming as like 13-year-old girls in 2000 learn about their changing bodies from the 1970s. Like, that's what it sounds like.
Interesting. Yeah, I totally disagree. I think this sounds just as corny and bad as most Bond songs.
You know what it sounds like?
Interesting to me is
deep cut. The opening song in The Rescuers. No one gets that now.
Okay.
You're gonna Google that. You're gonna YouTube the opening song in The Rescuers.
I'll give you that one. Instead of your classic James Bond walks, turns, and shoots down the barrel of the gun, we just get this weird like web screen of tiny 007s because they didn't.
Could they like not get the rights to the bullet to the?
Correct. That was owned by the other company.
Yeah, so it just seems to me like someone's like, I want to make a Bond movie, and like we don't have the rights. Well, that's not fair. Okay,
It's exactly
Then
what
don't
it
make
is.
about like you can't you just
Well, they had the rights to this one thing, and it's like see, to me it's a delight because it's such a stupid loophole. Like, the fact that this movie exists is only because some old studio executive wanted to see Sean Connery be Bond again. He didn't like Roger Moore and was like, I need to see I want my Bond back. This is like so obviously like the rattle of some old miserable person who hated change. It was like, bring back the things I like, and that amuses the hell out of me.
I mean that makes sense. It just it just annoys me that like that is allowed to happen. Movies aren't cheap.
Well, yeah,
and
no,
so you're
this movie made a lot. This movie made a lot of money.
I just think it's so stupid that like there are so many movies that could get made and should get made, and instead it's like, let's drop another $400 million on let's see if Will Smith wants to come back to do another Independence Day. Spoiler alert, he doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, this is a little bit different to me because like this would be the equivalent of somebody paying Will Smith a big bucket of money to play
Agent J.
Agent J, thank you. I was like, K, yeah. Agent J, but the movie is called Men in Suits, and it's like a remake of Men in Black, but he now is in the Tommy Lee Jones role and is the old fart character, but we can't call it Men in Black and we can't use the word neuralizer. So we do like a bunch of little cutesy things. Like, that would be a fascinating cultural artifact to me. I would be so intrigued by that existing.
Yeah, but like,
your point is totally valid.
also Will Smith doesn't do anything good anymore.
Well, I would argue that he never did, but
no, I think
that's
you don't. I think Men in Black is. You don't think Men in Black is solid?
I think Men in Black is a good movie. I think he stopped making interesting movies in 1999, probably.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay.
You said he never did.
Well, I don't know if I would like. I enjoy Men in Black, but is it a good movie? Is it? You know what I mean?
I think it is, because I think it's a nice twist on the sci-fi genre that hadn't been done a whole lot before.
I actually just recently heard a story that Tommy Lee Jones was so mad during the whole thing because he was like, "You can't make an alien movie funny. A movie can't be two things. It doesn't. You either need to be an alien movie or a funny movie." And then like halfway through, begrudgingly understood what was happening. And I
that is so delightful to me. That
the context was
old man actors like, that's not how movies work.
Yeah. The context being that they weren't sure if he was like being gruff because he is gruff or being gruff because he like knew what he was doing, and it was like sort of a fascinating exercise. Anyway, let's talk about the movie. We start with this Gray at the Temple's Bond is assaulting a compound. The Truly Bad song is playing
in the forest.
He throws a in the jungly forest, and he throws a bomb and he kills some guys, and he does a Die Hard swing into a window where he like has a rope around his waist, which I thought was a pretty cool stunt. There's this woman who's tied up, and he rescues her, and then when he unties her and turns his back to deal with something else, she stabs him. Turns out, training exercise, which is just as bad as turns out it was a dream, I think.
Yeah, although, so there's no indication that this is a hologram in any way, which means they just sent him to the jungle and set up this cosplay.
No, they do indicate that it was, it's not a hologram, it's real, but they do indicate it wasn't live ammunition and stuff.
No, I know, but that means like they went to a jungle and set up this cosplay for him.
Yeah,
this isn't like a holodeck situation. Or whatever the X-Men
I got the impression it was just like the outskirts of London, but you're right.
You think we've been to London? You know that's not what anywhere in London looks like.
I know, but it's like if you had unlimited money, you could make a compound that had this.
I guess.
I didn't think this was just like a naturally occurring jungle in the outskirts of London. To be clear, I think
we were there.
Planted
we saw a bunch of stuff. I don't remember seeing palm trees in London.
I was just saying they went to a place and planted some bamboo is all.
And this is where they're like, oh yeah, she was kidnapped for 12 weeks. Of course she would be, brainwashed and would kill you.
Yeah.
Okay, movie.
So I would like to take this moment now because we're about to get into the stuff that I know is going to make you mad, and you're going to be flabbergasted that I could say I like it as a person who is the person that I am. And I would just like to say this right now. James Bond movies do not exist in the reality that we live in. In these realities, all women want to have sex with James Bond.
Oh, I wrote
all
that
men
later.
want
It's
to be
hilarious.
James Bond. Yeah. Okay. But like,
So hang on, wait.
this is the reality of this movie.
You've seen the contemporary James Bonds, right?
I've seen pretty much all of them.
That's what I mean, like the Daniel Craig ones.
Yeah.
Are there any men in those movies who throw themselves at Bond?
No.
See, like, that feels to me like an update of this movie where, like, Bond. I'm not saying Bond has to sleep with dudes, but like, there should be at least one dude who's like, because literally every woman that Bond walks past instantly like pulls off her panties and throws them at him.
Yes. Yes.
And like,
yes.
there's got to be like one. There's no way that there's no gay dudes in in the world of Bond who's like, oh, I want that.
Maybe there is, now that you're saying it. It's not, the new ones are not as overtly sexual as the other ones. That's not to say there isn't sex in them, because he sleeps with beautiful women in all of them, but it's not as it's like when he does the thing where he flirts with Moneypenny, it's like kind of a cute flirt and not like.
Well, isn't Moneypenny Judi Dench?
No, that's M. Moneypenny's the secretary.
Oh, right.
Don't you remember the
Spy Fox,
game?
Monkey Penny.
It was Monkey Penny was the secretary.
Yes, I remember that now.
Yeah, not the boss. Yes, okay. That was a point-and-click adventure game
Spy Fox.
from the early 90s.
By Humongous Entertainment.
No, it was I thought it was like Shylock Fox.
No, it was Spy Fox. So Slylock Fox was a comic strip where you had to like solve the mystery in the comic strip of like, where did the Jello go?
Oh, okay.
Spy Fox was a Humongous Entertainment point-and-click
Fox,
game that parodied James Bond.
I actually remembered not terribly long ago, Spy Fox came out as an iPhone
Yep,
thing.
because I downloaded all of them.
I played through the whole first one on a plane.
Which was that dry cereal?
I think so. Yeah, I remember the cows being involved.
Yeah, dry cereal.
The milk thing. Yeah, but I like played through it the whole way on a plane and was like, well, that was fun. I don't need to do any more of that.
Yeah, it's a cute little thing. So, the Humongous Entertainment did all of their games. So it was Freddy Fish, Pajama Sam, Spy Fox,
Pajama Sam's the other
Putt
one I
Putt.
remember. Okay.
I never played.
Oh, the car. Yeah. We played Putt Putt briefly.
Not as much as all the others, but they released all of them as iOS games and maybe Android. I don't know. So I, of course, because nostalgia is the currency of when we're living.
Yeah.
I downloaded all of them.
Anyway, so the new ones, he definitely is a sexual person, but it is not as like ridiculous as it is in this movie, I would say. But anyway, the reason I bring that up is that I don't think any human being who exists on the earth that we live in should talk to women this way, should treat people this way at all.
Of course not. But
I like when fictional character James Bond, who exists in a different universe than I do, does it, and I find it delightful. And it's because in his universe, this is not harassment or worse. It is just how these people talk to each other. Yes. Well, but like, so that's what I'm saying is like, this is not real. And I like when this fake person in a fake world where everyone likes it does it. Because in this world, the rule isn't, hey, treat other people with respect and don't act like women are objects. Because in this world, which is a bad world, objectively speaking, the women are kind of objects and they all want to sleep with James Bond. So
they're
that's
either
bad.
Objects or murderesses.
Right. I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying I'm going to talk later about liking things that are going to be like, well, that seems opposite of what you like as, but I wasn't sure if that was the right word, to what you are as a person and what you like as a person. And I would say you are correct because this is fake. Like, this is obviously a different reality because not every woman wants to sleep with any man, period. But clearly the woman here do.
Yeah, every woman who Sean Connery walks past is like, oh, won't been eating these, and like slides down her panties.
To be fair, he still looks very good for 52.
He does. I don't think he is not the best aging Bond, I think.
Who do you think is doing it better?
How old's Daniel Craig? Because isn't he older than you expect?
All right. Okay. Yes. Okay, fair. Daniel Craig is probably close to that.
Because it was Roger
48.
Moore.
I think I looked this up.
Roger
recently.
Moore, Connery, and Craig are the three older Bonds, I would say, right?
Yes. Although.
Because Pierce Brosnan didn't really get to do it. He did it like twice, right?
No, Pierce Brosnan got, I think, the second most Bonds. If not, he's not two. He's not two. He's three. He did at least 4, maybe 5.
Oh.
Daniel Craig was born in March 1968, which means he is 52.
Oh.
Right? Yeah.
And that's how old Connery is.
Connery is in this movie. Yes.
Then Daniel Craig, 100%.
I'm just saying it's a different kind of 52 in 1983. We had a different. It was 40 years ago. The world was different.
Yeah. Like, Tom Cruise is 57, y'all.
Right.
And is in better shape than I will ever be in my entire life.
He's older. He is older than Wilford Brimley is in Cocoon.
Shut up.
Yeah, like a lot older.
I love those kind of facts.
Yeah. Stay tuned, by the way. Cocoon coming one day to this podcast for sure. Anyway, we are so far into this conversation, and so
it's because we're starved for that conversation.
Yeah, this is going to be a tangential podcast. But the reason I brought that whole thing up is because there's this great sequence after this where the boss is like, you're soft and slow, 007, too much red meat, white bread, and dry martinis. And Bond goes, well, I'll cut the white bread out then. And it's like, yes, that line is like exactly what I want.
I do like that line a lot. But like this whole sequence with the new boss is why I said it's a fan fiction, where it's like a new it's like a new teacher at school who's like different and shaking things up. Like, what? This is fan fiction 101, where it's like
the reason you know it's not fan fiction is because he and the boss don't immediately have sex.
Well, the boss is a man.
Yes, that's exactly what I meant.
So he's like, too many free radicals, and I was like, you mean like the toxins that like estheticians and stuff talk about? And then he goes, and that's exactly what he means. So he sends him to like a goop seminar where he gets fed things and learns how to exercise. And I was like, what is happening? This is not James Bond.
So I will say, I think what we're supposed to get, because in reading about the movie, he had retired and they like brought him back.
Bond. Yes.
Yes. The character, not the actor. Yes. He also drives a incredibly gorgeous Bentley to.
Well, doesn't he? Oh, isn't that like Bond's thing?
No, Bond drives Aston Martin.
But I mean, like, cars is like...
Right, but it's a different car. But it's a very beautiful car he drives to this retreat.
Also, the room that they're all talking in at MI6 doesn't feel like cool MI6. It feels like a set from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
So that's actually a thing with the old Bonds. MI6 does look like this.
Oh, really?
It's not like a hip, sleek headquarters. It's like a very British-looking room with like the huge portrait of the Queen was exactly bang on to me. That I was like, "Yep, this is MI6."
It looks like a set piece from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, no, it feels very 70s British film for sure, which is why it would read that way to you.
Yes,
so
yes.
They send him, yeah. So they send him to the Goop seminar. He drives his Bentley there. They give him a physical. We get a brief interlude with a bad guy who is also at this Goop seminar.
I didn't understand that he was there at first until all of a sudden he was there, and I was like, why are they at the same spot?
Just for the sake of plot convenience, frankly.
But like, here's the thing: if I am Blofeld and Largo, attorneys at law,
that sounds like a show coming to USA.
It does, right?
Blofeld and Largo, and they're like arms crossed back to back.
Except one suit is like short sleeves and Hawaiian print, and the other suit is
that's got to be Largo. That's got to be Largo.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right? Largo is the kooky one,
and Blofeld's got a pinstripe suit.
Yeah. Actually, interesting quirk. The rights to Blofeld ended up here, and he's like a major Bond adversary that they had used a lot, but this guy had the rights to him, so they had to buy the rights to this movie later. And then later they could use Blofeld again, because Blofeld is in the new Daniel Craig ones as well.
Okay, because Spectre's there. That was one of the movies, wasn't it?
Correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which I didn't know. Again, I'm not a Bond aficionado, so I didn't know that was like a thing. But like, so here, if I am Blofeld and Largo, attorneys at law, and I gave someone a cornea transplant to give them the retina of the president, which is dubious at best as someone who works front desk at an eye surgery center.
It is a dumb movie. We have to give them their dumb
I would
thing.
be like, he would be in my compound. Like, the surgery would be done in a compound that is just my, like, minions. Like,
yes.
He would have been, like, the volcano layer, like, whatever that version of this is. The palace we go to later in North Africa.
Frankly, there's some henchman training issues throughout this movie, and I will get to them later, but you're correct that, like, this is not good henchman work.
Yeah, he should have been kept somewhere safe. Also, I thought Bond villainesses or Bond women had, like, sexy pun names. Isn't that a thing?
Not always. Some of them do, but not always. That has become, like, the jokey trope, but that is not always the case. They're usually pretty stupid. Like, one of the ones with Pierce Brosnan, what's her face?
Halle Berry.
No, Denise Richards played a scientist named Christmas Jones.
Oh wait, that was
only so that they could make the joke. I thought Christmas only came once a year.
Oh, she and January Jones.
Yeah, no, different Jones. Different
of the January Joneses. I remember that now from 30 Rock. That she
Halle Berry's character does have a stupid name. Yeah.
Because it's Fatima Blush and Domino Petrushka, I think.
To be fair, Fatima not so much. Domino is a pretty odd name.
It is, but I was like, Fatima, my brain went to like drag queen puns of like what Fatima is, what that going to be? And she's like, it's Fatima Blush. And I was like, oh, that's not fun.
Halle Berry's name is Jinx in Die Another Day.
Oh, okay.
But so he's at the Goop seminar and he's getting massage worked over by this, or physical by this female doctor, nurse. I'm not quite sure what her role is. And he's being very flirty. Like, she's talking about his back needs to be worked out. And he's like, oh, I know a good way to work out the back. And she's like, oh, is it this? And just like torques on him, which I really enjoyed. Yeah. But of course, this leads to knock on the door later, bringing him his dinner, which is, I think, steamed vegetables and plain white rice. And he's like, how about this? And
a boiled chicken.
Yeah. And he flips up in his suitcase, like, in heavyweights. And it's like, here's my rows of caviar.
Heavyweights moment.
It's like this fit secret agent is secretly a fat kid. And he's like, here's my foie gras. And here's my pate. Here, have some foie gras on a cracker. And he feeds it to her. And then, of course, they have sex. But it's just like, that suitcase is my dream suitcase, I feel.
See, now that you've mentioned the Bond world logic that I think makes sense, I just want to see Bond in a world where he doesn't, like, remember that episode of 30 Rock where John Hamm lives in the pretty bubble?
Uh-huh.
I want that where,
I think that'd be cool.
Where it'd be like James Bond is like, oh, hello, and like leans in to like hit on someone, and she's like, you're disgusting, and he's like, oh, what?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I don't want to have sex with you, you gross pig, and then walks away.
Right.
And Bond has to learn actual spy skills.
Yeah, exactly. You can't just wave your dick at things, James.
You can't just hold a martini in one hand and your dick in the other.
Right, but that is exactly James Bond. It's a martini in one hand and his dick in the other. His gun is not really important to things. He's got a laser watch, but its hands are full, so he can't use it. Like, that is the ethos of this character, and that is objectively bad, but again, I don't think, like, he doesn't exist in our world. He exists in his, and that is cool. Mm-hmm. I also love that in the suitcase, it's the high proof absolute vodka, just to like add on to the, like, this man is a raging alcoholic.
Well, it's also that, like, he's only you can't sneak in that many bottles, so make the bottles you can sneak in count.
Right, but he's got the one bottle and it's the high test stuff, and I was like, yeah, of course he's drinking 100 proof vodka instead of 80 proof. Of course he is.
See, that could have been a great moment of like, I know they're sending you to the Goop seminar. Here's an array of gadgets, and he's like, you know what? I'm just describing a bit from Austin Powers.
Yes, you are.
I was about to be like, oh, and the bottle of vodka is a blah blah blah, and he's like, no, that's just vodka because you're gonna need it. That's the toothpaste Brit from Austin Powers.
Yep.
which
yep.
honestly holds the hell up. I watched it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The first one, at least. The second one.
Because what you're describing is like him hitting on women and women being like, ew, is basically Austin Powers. They like, the gag is they took a person from the 60s and put him now, and then obviously fish out of water.
Well, even Austin Powers like knows about consent. Like a woman, like Elizabeth
Hurley.
Thank you. I was like bedazzled. Elizabeth Hurley is drunk and trying to sleep with him, and he's like, "You're drunk. This isn't right." And it's like, whoa, that's kind of rad.
Yeah. Yeah, because in Bond's world, he would also be drunk.
Yeah, in Bond's world, everyone's drunk.
Yes, exactly. That's the base.
That's how you know it's 5 o'clock. Everyone's drunk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the nurse, the Fatima, who we'll find out later is Fatima, goes in and takes care of the wonky eye patient, and
she beats the hell out of him, which would
she really
100% ruin the corneal transplant they allegedly just did.
Yeah,
that's how that works.
Yes, for sure. Trauma would ruin that. But then we get a pretty fun fight where Bond's in the weight room and some big gigantic henchman comes in to try to
yeah, because Bond spies on the cornea transplant guy and reveals himself, and then Fatima pulls out this like the stupid like one eye binocular with night vision that is like a very spy movie thing. Just use just use two. Just put a binocular.
Yeah, just regular old binoculars
work just
will be
fine.
just fine. Thanks.
So she's like looking through the darkness, and then just like Jamie Lee Curtis in the new Halloween movie, they just slow fade him in because clearly like that wasn't the shot, and she's like, "I know who this man is, James Bond."
Yes,
and then she takes off her panties and throws them at him.
But I just love the like sort of David and Goliath staging of this fight that he gets into in the weight room. He's like doing bench presses and the guy like puts a ton of weight on it and he gets trapped and has to like get his feet up under it and get himself loose. But it's basically Andre the Giant versus you. Like it's a very average sized person and a gigantic man. There's a great bit where Bond is like picking up random objects to use as defense and this guy just keeps destroying them, including this wooden bench.
I mean, my brain is like tuned to like today movies where I was like, is this guy on some kind of like super drug that the bad guys are formulating? Like, because he's like the Hulk or Bane. He's like huge. Because Bond is like throwing weights at his face and nothing's happening. He's punching him with weights and nothing's happening. And I was like, is this a plot point that like he's some kind of super soldier?
He's just got good fighting spirit. It's an old school wrestling tactic of just like they'd hit Andre the Giant a lot and nothing would happen, and then if Andre went to one knee, it was like, oh my god, the hero was making a dent.
Yeah.
He also has this like the bad guy has this sort of spring weapon that is
what the hell was that?
Decimate. I don't know. It looks like a really tightly coiled spring that's about 2 feet long with a handle, and so when he swings it, it gets this tremendous velocity and just is like shearing things in half. It shears a sheet pan in half, just like saws right through it. And a knife.
It's so bizarre.
But they fight all over the place, including a really good gag where they're like fighting in the hallway and he hits Bond, who stumbles past this group of patients watching a boxing match, and the punches like sync to a punch in the fight, and then he just like cocks a hand under his chin and stands behind the chair. Someone turns around and is like nodding at the fight like, oh, what a doozy.
Yeah, that was
it's
fun.
stupid, but it was genuinely funny to me.
I think maybe this scene was part of why like this movie felt weird, because I was like, I don't see Sean Connery and think like strong like fighter kind of guy.
Right.
Like, he's more of a gadgets. Like I see Connery and think gadgets.
But see, I agree with you 100%, but that's why I like this, because he doesn't win because he's stronger. He wins because he outsmarts the guy.
Yeah, but like he shouldn't have lasted that long. Like that's what I mean. What happened to him should have killed him because he's old and frail.
I mean, I get your point, but I think that the character is just like, he's tough as nails.
Double
he's
ARP.
Not the strongest guy. And I also love, so the fight ends up, they fight all over the place. They fight through the kitchen. They fight in the hallway. They fight in this room full of chemicals that Bond gets thrown into, and it's all spilled over him. And he grabs just a random beaker and throws it in the guy's face. And the guy reacts as if it's hydrochloric acid, falls backwards, and he dies. And you're like, oh, he got killed by the acid.
But his face looks
normal. And then it
normal.
turns out he fell into a bunch of very sharp things. Yeah. But Bond turns the beaker around and it's his own urine specimen.
Well, because earlier this woman holds up a pitcher, and she's like, "I need you to fill this beaker with urine," and I was like, "That's like a 40-ounce pitcher."
Yeah.
There's no liquid left in his body.
Did you give him a couple of big gulps first? Because holy shit. This is like the amount of pee you produce after you have a large soda at a movie and you wait the whole movie to go.
Yeah, I drank a coffee to start a 3-hour drive, and I'm racing inside.
Yes. What a fool I was. How dumb I was back then. I also feel like this Bond is very Ferris Bueller-y with
I can see that.
He's sort of quipping all over the place, and it's like the kind of thing Josh, I always say that, would have been like, ooh, let me take notes, and this is just all my characters.
Yeah. So they use the plan. The bad guys Spectre does the plan to switch the warheads, and wow, it's so easy to swap out fake warheads for real ones.
Well, he did have to have a corneal transplant to be the president. I thought that was...
Yeah, but literally all the president has to do is look in the thing and okay, we'll take out the fake warheads and put real ones in. That shouldn't be a command. If this is a training exercise, that's not a command.
Yeah, fair. I mean, it is stupid. It's a Bond movie. Again, remember the world we're playing in.
I know.
It's not our world. It's
but
his.
Fun fact, I wish I had noticed, the voice of the lady on the eye scanner thing is Amy Irving of Carrie fame, and also the singing voice of Jessica Rabbit.
Interesting.
She did a lot of voice work, apparently.
Okay. I actually thought the fake eye was a pretty classic Bond type gag where it's like you replace the cornea to do the thing. We get some cool miniatures after this and some green screen of the nukes are on these jets and the jets are flying. And then the eye guy gets out of there and he starts driving away. Meanwhile, Fatima pulls up next to him and waves at him. And he's all excited that she's proud of him. And then she throws a snake in his car.
Oh, they also got him addicted to heroin to get it.
Oh, yes.
That was part of the plan. They got him addicted to heroin so they could give him a cornea transplant.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's a very James Bond villain plan.
It's very much the Joker in The Dark Knight where if you realize how many steps you had to go back, when did whoa. There's easier ways.
It turns out he's been planning this for 27 years.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, Fatima's going to pull out a silenced pistol and shoot him. Great. No, she throws a snake in his car?
Yes, but there's a snake in my boot.
It's not even snakes are her thing, or her name is Viper or Viper.
Right.
I needed the snake to make sense.
The snake doesn't even really come back, right?
No, that's what I mean. If her thing was she's the
Viper would be a great name.
Yeah, her name was Viper. And then her thing is snakes, and she's always in snake skin. Give me something, because instead she's just a regular assassin lady. Right.
But yeah, I love that she picks up the snake and she's cooing at it, and I'm like, oh, so she's Jake the Snake. This is her finishing maneuver that she's got hidden in a bag at all times, and then it just does it. Just the snake
bag of snakes.
That's Jake the Snake. He was a wrestler. He had a snake in a bag, and he would win his matches, and then he'd put the snake on people. That was his old gimmick.
Her thing, she always has a live bubble around her neck, like Britney Spears.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I always think of I don't know if I've talked about this in the podcast before, but Ron Funches has a really great bit about being a grown man who likes wrestling. And he's like, people are always trying to tell me it's fake. And I'm always like, oh, you mean the thing I like with the fireworks and the pageantry and the guy who has a snake in a bag that he uses to bite his enemies isn't real? No shit. I don't want it to be real. Do you think I want to live in a world where people have a minor car accident? The way they settle it is to throw punches at each other? That's insane.
Please tell me they at one point shot a promo video of his snake. They put sunglasses on his snake.
No, I don't think so. The snake was a cool mystery.
Because that'd be great. I just want a director's chair with a snake on it.
We can do that. If somebody out there wants to animate that, we'll write the script and do the voice work of the promo of the snake.
And the snake
is like a real diva.
Well, I'm picturing the snake doesn't talk. It's just like a. Like
I want the snake to have like a cigarette.
I want a cigarette. I want a long cigarette,
hands.
like a cigarette holder.
Yeah,
and it's got its tail on it,
style.
like.
Yeah, and it's like the snake's doing the sort of like offstage things are falling apart, and it's like, yeah, Jake. He was going through a rough time, and so we had to go our separate ways. And the snake like slithers away.
The snake is coiled around a martini glass, so its head is like perched at the edge, so it can like and then puff the cigarette with his tail. Yeah, that's what I want.
Yeah. But yeah, she retrieves the snake from the car, and then the car explodes. It's a good car explosion.
No, the car crashes, and then she puts a bomb in it, takes the snake, and blows up the car.
Oh, that's right. She puts a bomb
that's what I mean. Okay. She had a bomb the whole time.
You didn't
chose to use the snake.
Right. Well, like that's what makes it more confusing that the snake takes an Uber out of the movie, because it was her gimmick, and you're like, oh, so she's going to be the snake killer person. And it's like, no, she just had that snake that day, I guess.
Or they could have called her Cleopatra, because did Cleopatra have the asp?
Yeah, or what was the Medusa? That would be a good one.
Medusa.
Snake hair, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of snake names that we could have gone with, and given her a thing.
Right. So we cut away from this.
Keep that actress, because she's great.
No, yeah, she is. She's very good. We cut back to the missiles. There's one at the ocean floor, and then Spectre comes on and is like, hey, we've got all these missiles. We're going to blow up the whole world.
So I was confused at first, because I was like, so they want to blow things up. Okay. And then I was like, no, they don't, because they just crash. Like, what is happening? But also...
They crashed them so they could steal them.
Yes. I got there.
Well, I'm explaining for the audience that the point of this exercise was to steal the warheads.
So what happens, if in the event that this, because I assume that training drills like this are a real thing that occur in the world. So what is the outcome of a training drill? Like when you use a dummy warhead, does it just like a metal chunk of something just crashes somewhere?
I guess so. Or they might not actually launch them. They might fly them to the site and then air quotes launch them and then not actually drop it.
Oh, okay.
Part of the exercise is probably loading the thing onto the plane, so everybody gets to get the training, not just the pilot.
Makes sense. Okay, that makes sense.
And then the pilot could do everything but actually hit the release button. That would make sense to me. I don't have any actual idea, but that is how it would make sense to me. If you were to, it's like doing a fire drill, right? You want everybody to do their part of if it were an actual fire, including take the extinguisher off the wall or whatever.
Yeah. So MI6 is like, oh, these warheads got stolen. They basically say they're like, well, someone would had to have the eye scan to do this and this and this, and Bond kind of puts it together. If Bond had been like, oh, I watched this happen, I know what this is, I would have liked this. This movie would have been better for me. But he was like,
sure.
What about a false eye? And they're like, that's stupid. And I was like, hey, how many movies ago was a guy painting people gold and another guy threw a hat to take people's heads off?
Exactly.
Are we sure?
It's so weird that some of these people don't live in the Bond-verse, which is where this movie takes place.
Yes. There's a skeezy, pervy dance studio mirror for Largo to watch his girlfriend dance.
It's a two-way mirror, so he can perv behind her like a cop interrogation.
Yeah.
There's some real funk music in there too. It's very pornographic.
All of her music
from the 60s.
is porn.
Yeah, and this is Kim Basinger, by the way,
who only took this role because her career had taken off.
Right. Well,
that is a fact. She had been offered Bond roles before and was like, no one's going to respect me. I won't do that.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then her career didn't take off, so she was like, fine, let's take a fucking Bond movie.
Yeah, and then she picked a non-Bond Bond.
Yeah, I was like, oh, you poor lady.
It's really funny because this era, she looks a lot like Daryl Hannah, but obviously is the worst actress. And it took me a while to realize it was Kim Basinger, and I kept being like, this dollar store Daryl Hannah, this is the best we could get. And then I realized who it was, and I was like, oh, this was a get.
This was a bit of a get.
Yeah.
And then I was like, if you just
he
wait a
gives her
few more
this
years,
necklace.
you're gonna get Batman, and then things still aren't gonna take off for you. But at least you're in Batman.
Yeah. Right. Well, I find her to be very similar to like a Denise Richards, where not a great actor, mostly there for their looks.
That's fair, because I couldn't tell you another Kim Basinger movie.
The one with Mickey Rourke, 9.5 Weeks, I think it's called, is like very famous.
Oh, I believe it.
Speaking of Denise Richards for the third time on this podcast, subscribers to the Bag of Soup Sentinel on Patreon will know this already, but Tammy and the T-Rex is on Showtime and also Shudder, and absolute dynamite entertainment while you're home, cooped up all the time. Hilarious B-movie. The R-rated cut of it was just basically unearthed in the last year or two. Really worth your time, so go check that out. So he gives her this necklace that's called the Tears of Allah, and it's this very obviously a map of some type when you look at it, but of course the movie takes another hour to get there.
Hour and a half.
Is that how long it is? Okay.
Yes, this movie is too long. That's my problem with these
they're all
movies.
too long.
Like, like my boyfriend quotes, it says, "You love a tight 90." I love a tight 90. Like,
yeah,
this movie is over 2 hours long. And if you're watching it, currently it's available on Pluto TV for free with no, like, you don't have to, like, sign up or anything. You just go to the site and watch it.
Yeah.
But it has ads. And on Wikipedia, it said it was like 2 hours, 10 minutes, 15, but I assume 10 for credits. And then I turned it on and it said 2 hours, 45 minutes. And I almost jumped out a window.
I think it actually ran shorter than that for me because I didn't have that many ads.
So
like most of my ad breaks
when
were
I got to the
single
commercial, I got like the same stupid Reese's Easter eggs ad plus like 4 car commercials.
Oh, interesting. I only had 1 or 2 for most of my ad breaks.
So final credits rolled and I still had 20 minutes left, like 15, 20 minutes left on the thing.
Whoa, that's bonkers.
Yeah, and so I was confused. So
yeah, final credits start with 5 remaining when I watch.
Yeah, there were like 15, 20 minutes left.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, Pluto TV has all of the Bonds, actually.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Or almost all of the Bonds. And also, I kept getting ads for, they had a after-school cartoons block you can watch, which is all the stuff we watched when we were kids, so that
like
might
what?
be something I'd be turn on.
Like Recess?
Like, Recess was Saturday morning. What was the after-school stuff? Like Animaniacs was an after-school one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Those kind of ones. I think the X-Men cartoon is on Disney Plus.
It is. I'm really excited to watch that because we had family friends that had the VHS of that. So it.
No, we had the VHS of that.
We did?
Yes, we got it from Pizza Hut, my man.
I remember watching it over at the Gracie's.
Oh no, we definitely had the X-Men.
But it was obviously it's only like 2 or 3 episodes, so it's just the extended pilot. So I know the pilot so well.
Yeah. Anyway, back to James Bond. This is where Q gets to come in the movie, and Bond's in the gadgetry room.
It sounded like he was the lifestyles of the rich and famous guy, but it's not him.
Yes.
He sounds
it's not
just
Robin
like him.
Leach. He does. And this was always my favorite part of James Bond, of like the insane tech stuff.
Yeah, I love gadgets.
The new ones don't do it as much. Yeah. But I love a good dumb gadget. And that again goes to like the first Bond I ever saw was, I think, Thunderball, which was at a sleepover birthday party for a friend of mine in the neighborhood. And the dad was a James Bond guy. And so he rented some James Bonds. Like, this is perfect for 10-year-old boys, which it is.
Yeah.
They're mostly pretty like he has sex, but it's very like,
you don't see
they
boob.
Kiss and then it fades to black. And I don't think you see, like,
that's what I mean. You don't see any boob. You just like, they lay on the bed and like they're clearly both topless, but you don't see anything.
Yes. Right. Except for one shot of Kim Basinger in this movie where you can 100% see through her shirt, which I imagine is something that was not noticed until HD was a thing. Anyway, Q's there and he starts like, he's like playing with all these gadgets. He uses this little pen gun to blow up a target, which is pretty rad looking. Mm-hmm. And then we get a laser watch, which is just a classic Bond gadget.
Like at this point, it feels like they just need to update the software on his laser watch each time. Yeah,
you would think.
So Bond goes to a place that I can't remember, and this is
a beautiful seaside destination.
Yeah, he goes to the movie Mamma Mia.
He does indeed go to the movie Mamma Mia, which honestly would make sense if he was one of those guys. Isn't Pierce Brosnan one of those guys?
Pierce Brosnan's one of them.
Okay. James Bond is definitely.
Fun fact: Pierce Brosnan cannot sing and should not sing. That movie is so bad but delightful, and then the sequel makes even less sense.
Yeah, I would imagine that checks out. He immediately starts flirting with this very attractive woman.
Yes. Well, also, is it like the third time that someone for a secret agent, he sure does a lot of introducing himself by his full name.
Yes.
And then other people shout his name across crowded areas. And I'm just like...
Yeah, Mr. Bean rolls up going like, Mr. Bond, James Bond, hello, James Bond, is he in here? James Bond?
Like, why does Bond ever have an alias?
No. Not that I'm sure yes, but not that I recall.
That feels
that is not
such an oversight that each mission is not like, you're going to be, Marty O'Toole, and you're going to be an insurance salesman. Like,
I'm just picturing Sean Connery with his very thick Scottish accent trying to be like a friggin' leprechaun. Hello, I'm Marty O'Toole. Welcome to the land of plenty.
No, because so that would be a great spoofy idea where it's like Sean Connery's thick accent that you like, very persistent. He's like, this is my American accent, and they're like, wow, it's so convincing. Like, I want that universe of like he goes through like all of his accents and it's just the same voice, and they're like, so great.
I'd love that Mr. Bean is in this movie for no reason. It's really quite Rowan Atkinson.
It's apparently his film debut.
Oh, interesting. He's very good at this bumbling idiot stuff. It makes sense why Mr. Bean was such a phenomenon.
Well, what I like about this is that it's not like aggressive, overt bumbling idiot.
Yes.
He's like fumbling sidekick.
Yes, exactly.
Fumbling, not bumbling.
Yes, yeah. That's a good delineator. Then, so this beautiful woman he's flirting with goes out on her boat. She makes a joke about catching James Bond, basically. And I'm like, oh, I bet that comes back. I have seen this before, but I didn't quite remember it. I was like, I'm sure that is a callback.
You don't even have to have seen this movie to have seen this movie before.
Right. But then, so Bond's in the... Bond's at this bar and Fatima is water skiing and he's kind of like flirting. They're like flirting while she's water skiing, which as someone who has water skied successfully only 2 times, I can tell you I was not in a position to be doing anything but like clinging for dear life to a tow rope.
It just reminded me of that scene in Bob's Burgers with the boat episode where Teddy just has to keep driving by the restaurant shouting at his ex-wife.
Bob! Yeah.
Denise!
Oh, right.
Denise!
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Because she just keeps looping, whoever is driving just keeps looping her around so she can like do a leg bend and she can like do a split, like, and then she water skis up into the restaurant.
Yes, at a ramp designed for this purpose.
Like, why is that a thing?
Why is there a water ski entrance to this bar? Yeah. But like, I've been in a restaurant that has boat parking. That makes sense. But this restaurant doesn't have just boat parking. They have a landing pad for you on your water skis. This is like a carnival attraction. Yeah. She flies up this ramp at breakneck speed. And
it almost looks like something out of like Christmas Vacation. The way it's shot.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And while holding a martini, he catches her in the other hand. And she's like, well, I've gotten you all wet. And it's like, oh, here comes the horrible sexual innuendo.
She said that. And I was like,
which again, in the real world, bad. Here, great.
Although I don't think he says what we assumed he would have said.
Right. I think that was a little too cheeky for the censor board at the time. But this leads to they go on her boat together and do some scuba diving.
Well, they bone and then do some scuba diving.
Oh, right. They do bone first. I forgot about that.
They got to go to Bone Town.
They do. They go. Is that the second? That's James's second Bone Town with the second different woman in the movie.
I think that's correct.
Of 4.
Oh yeah.
We are only halfway through his insane sexual hijinks.
Yes.
But this sequence,
a remote control truck.
Is like the perfect level of stupidity for me. she puts this tracking beacon on James and then does something to the shark, like puts a little tracker.
Well, no,
I don't
to
know
me it
what
seemed
is.
like they have these sharks.
Oh, you thought they were like pet sharks?
I think they're like for this purpose of like.
I see.
Because there's a couple sharks, I think.
There are, but there is a full-on sequence in this movie where Sean Connery's stunt double has a fist fight with a shark puppet, and it is just delightful, including a sequence where he like dives into a shipwreck. The
It's
shark
Little
is
Mermaid.
chasing him.
It's the opening sequence of
Yes.
The Little Mermaid.
Yes, but he gets through a door and the shark's right behind him, and he shuts the shark in a door like he's shutting out Jack Nicholson in The Shining.
And
I wanted the
The shark puppet's nose all squishes up.
Yeah, I wanted to be like, here's Chompy, burst through the glass.
Although, hang on. This movie was before, or what? It was either before they did it or the impetus for doing it. Those, like, no animals were harmed in the making of this movie.
Oh, really?
So maybe that was actually like a nurse shark that they just punched around.
I mean, I guess it just seems so hard that they would use a shark and it would like be able to be shot well. I also love there's a gag right after he gets past the shark, a license plate comes fluttering by.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
And I was like, oh, that's a cute little Jaws gag.
So he kills a shark and then his breathing tube falls out for some reason.
The shark, like, I think breaks it.
Oh, okay.
His regulator for his air tank.
But so yeah, the regulator falls out of his mouth, but then like you see that the whole tube just fell off.
Yeah.
So he does a whippet off his oxygen
He
tank.
does. He's doing straight whippets off the tank.
And then somehow knows that this fishing line he's grabbing onto is his sexy ladies,
Yes.
who's dressed like Huck Finn.
Yes. So she reels him in, and then he's naked under the wetsuit, I guess.
Well,
so
yeah,
they-
you usually are.
She gives him the overalls to wear.
Which, honestly, I love that visual of
Yeah, I
Sean
figured
Connery in
you would.
overalls. Like, that's hilarious.
Just overalls.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, so because she was in a bikini when we first met her. Then she was in overalls. Now she's back in the bikini, but he's wearing the overalls and just the overalls.
Right.
And, like,
Right.
it's James Bond wearing only overalls. Like, that's hilarious.
Yes, no, it's a delight. It's very silly looking. Connery has this whole like carpet of chest hair sticking out, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And this leads to so we've seen Fatima place a bomb in Bond's room
Because she saw him. She pulled a Joan Cusack in Addams Family Values and is like partying on a boat, and then she sees James Bond and is like, "Damn it!"
So she goes to put a bomb in his room. Bond, of course, goes to bed with this boat lady, and while they're having sex, an explosion goes off, and he looks over and sees its room, and he's like, "Well, I guess we made the right choice." She's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Your place over mine," and then they go back to having sex. So third time, third lady.
He learns that Largo's yacht is heading to the south of France.
He meets up with Felix Leiter, who's a recurring Bond movie character at this point.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, different actors, of course, but that character's been in many of them, so it was cool to see him show up. And he's like assisting Bond with this stuff.
Yeah, so they go to the south of France, and I didn't realize this was a fourth woman because
Yes.
I thought it seemed like the same woman he had just left with. But I was like,
Yes.
she knows a lot
Yeah.
about spy stuff.
Yeah. Very confusing. Then he goes to this second goop type resort, and he pretends to be a masseuse.
It's like
And
a
he's
wellness.
massaging-
It's more like a spa. The first
Yeah,
one was like a goop thing. This is a spa.
Yeah. But he's massaging Kim Basinger with dry hands very poorly, and she is acting as if this is the greatest time her body has ever been touched by anything.
Yeah. And then we find out that also this is the moment where he walks through this, because he walks in and he's like, do you service men here? And the front desk lady like lifts her leg to her head and is like, some men more than others. Wink, wink, wink. And like points at her vagina. And then he as he walks through the spa, all the women, it's that scene in Stranger Things season 3 where they're at the pool.
Yes.
Where
And all the ladies
Billy
are
walks by the
gaga
moms
over
in the
him.
pool and they're all like, waka auga. Like they
Yeah,
are the
yeah.
Tex Avery wolf in the zoot suit.
Uh-huh.
And this is where we learn that Domino, Kim Basinger, is the sister of the guy who did the cornea transplant
Yes.
for literally no reason.
Well, because they had to get everything tied together.
But like, there was no like she wasn't used to get to her brother. Like, there was no
it doesn't
reason
make a lot
for
of
the
sense.
connection.
No. It only exists so that she has a reason to be mad at the bad guy.
That's fair.
So Bond goes to the casino and he's walking through all the table games. Then he comes across an arcade, which is just like an odd, wild thing. Although there are places in Vegas that have arcades too.
Like non-betting arcades like this?
Yeah, for kids.
Okay. Also,
then,
she finds out that Bond doesn't work there.
Yes. And he just randomly assaulted her. But the bad guy, and I want to get the actor's name because he's very good.
Max von Sydow?
I think this guy... No. Max von Sydow is in the movie, but I'm talking about the main bad guy is played by Klaus Maria Brandauer.
Oh, wait. Who? Is it Max von Sydow, Largo?
No, Largo is Klaus Brandauer.
Oh. He's got kind of a...
Von Sydow is Blofeld.
Blofeld, thank you. But
Yeah,
Largo,
so he's like...
Largo's got kind of a... Who is Marty McFly's dad originally?
Crispin Glover.
Yeah, he's got kind of a Crispin Glover vibe.
In that he's kind of a weirdo? Yes, for sure.
But also that face, they both have that kind of like squinty face.
Yeah. I think he's awesome in this. I think he's a very good Bond villain.
Mm-hmm.
He invites Bond to play this game, and it's basically a version of that electric chair thing you may have seen at a Boardwalker arcade although this actually says it's electric shock, but it's like a big bomb flying type game.
It makes no sense.
And if you lose, you get electrocuted. So Bond
watching this game, I'm like, I play video games. I play video games in 2020, and this game makes no sense.
80s video games are also very different. You know, the logic is not necessarily the same.
I guess. The Fatima is dressed for the Met Gala, like all Bond villains.
Yes. But this dude, Largo, is basically like that friend of yours who's like, hey, I got a new game. You want to come check it out? And then you go over there and it turns out he's had it for 2 months and it's just dunking on your ass for no reason.
He's like, I invented this game. And I was like, oh, then you shouldn't be allowed to play it.
Right, exactly. And he's just like destroying Bond over and over again. And it's like, well, this feels a little bit shitty, I think.
Also, Domino earlier ordered a double Bloody Mary with extra Worcestershire sauce. And I was like, at an evening gala? That's an interesting drink choice.
Yeah. I knew a person once who didn't like sweet beverages at all and just drank Bloody Marys all times of day, and it seemed crazy to me.
But also, I'm like, you're wearing a white gown.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
It's a weird time of day for a double bloody, especially for a fancy function.
Yeah.
And you're wearing white. You in danger, girl. So instead of collecting his winnings, because the casino's a charity.
But also Bond does like a rope-a-dope where he loses 2 games and then just dunks on the guy in the 3rd game because apparently James Bond is good at video games, I guess.
Sure. And so when he wins, he's like, oh, I'll dance with your girl instead of taking money because women are currency.
Right. Well, also information is currency.
Well, yes. But Largo doesn't know that.
No, that's true.
So they dance talk and he's like, your brother's dead. And
she takes it very well.
I was like,
considering the circumstances.
So then Largo's like, hey, I'll cut in. Why don't you have lunch with us on our boat tomorrow? Bye. And then he gets home. Bond goes home, and his agent friend that I guess was his contact drowned in a waterbed. Was drowned in a waterbed.
It's a straight up Freddy Krueger kill.
It is. Yeah, it's been done twice.
So he realizes it was Fatima
because she's still in the house.
Right. So he chases her, and this leads to a pretty fun car/motorcycle chase.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. My only issue is that there was no explanation of any of the bike gadgets. Like when Q was he was like, we saw the frame of a bike when Q was talking to him, and he was like, I'm working on a bike for you. We'll talk about it. No need to talk about it anymore. And then Bond is flipping switches and stuffs. And I was like, what's happening?
I do like the end of this is really my favorite part where he gets cornered and they're like, all right, drive your motorcycle onto this panel truck. And he does it. And then he pulls a 180, like a wheelie 180 and leaps out of the back of the panel truck to get away. It's very stupid, but also a delight.
Yeah. And then Fatima catches him. And this pissed me off because she's like a very capable character up to this point.
Yeah.
And then she's like, hey, I want you to write down that I'm the best lay you've ever had. And I was like, really? You need this approval?
Apparently. Well, she's aware that he has already slept with 2 other women in the 1 4-day period that she has known he existed. So maybe she just knows he's a huge slut.
So he uses his pen gun thing that Q gave him, and she explodes like a Roman candle.
Yes, it's like the kill at the end of Death Wish 4 that we did a while back.
Oh, yeah.
Where he shoots that guy with a bazooka at the end. But the best part is he shoots her and it just looks like a little stab wound. She's like laughing it off. And then Bond rolls over to hide his face as it just blows her to bits.
It's crazy.
Except her shoes, which are perfectly standing where she was standing.
Just a little smoky and blackened.
Yeah.
And then his CIA friend just shows up.
Yeah, Leiter rolls in with the cops.
Because the cops are on one side of the gate, and then Leiter's like, hey, I'm here. And Bond's like, where have you been? And he's like, around. Let's go.
Around is kind of the perfect answer for this movie, though.
This is where I started getting really bored because there's like 40 minutes. There's like 30
this
minutes
movie
left of this movie.
has basically 4 acts instead of 3, and it just makes it feel weird.
Mm-hmm. Also, for some reason, all the men in this movie wear short wetsuits, which I find adorable.
Yes. Yeah, maybe they just want... also, the water's probably warmer.
That's true.
Later, we see Kim Basinger in a wetsuit that is like a one-piece women's bikini, or not bikini, bathing suit, and it was
with
just
sleeves.
Like, well, wait a minute. Yes, exactly.
It's the high-cut one piece with sleeves.
Yes. So Bond's on this yacht. He goes into the dance studio where Kim Basinger is, and he turns the radio up real loud, and he does that thing where you kind of like dance with each other and talk to hide the fact that people are listening. And then he's like, I'm going to kiss you. 1, because it's important that he sees it, and 2, because I really want to.
So they kiss, and then run away. As Largo runs out, they run out too. She sets up the fire alarm. Bond goes into his little chamber and sends off a message, and then Largo pulls a Catwoman and just destroys the dance studio with an axe.
Yeah. Also, I will say Bond moves pretty good for being 52 years old.
That's true.
But Connery is in good shape compared to the way we saw Roger Moore air quotes run the last time we did a Bond movie, which was like they shot him from the neck up.
Also, I realized Bond was invited for lunch on this yacht, and somehow he's cool with them being like, we're going to North Africa.
Well, they kidnap him.
Yeah, but like when the boat leaves the harbor, you'd be like, hey,
what's going on here, bud?
Or you just dive off the boat. Like, come on.
That's true. So we get to the North African home, and we show off all of the Bad Largo's antiquities, including this jade sculpture that he gives to Domino as a quote wedding gift. And then he threatens to kill her, so she drops it, and he kind of like laughs about her being clumsy, which is very weird.
Yeah. And then he's like, we're done here.
Yeah.
And then Bond is chained up in a room full of vultures.
And actual skeletons?
Yes.
It's very odd. They are basically selling Kim Basinger, it looks like. Mm-hmm. It looks like the original Pirates of the Caribbean scene where she is handcuffed and being sold. Yeah. Bond uses his laser watch to open the bars. And then
Bond was also told that the 2 bombs remaining, one is in D.C. and the other one is, I guess, on the boat still.
Yeah, he says it's... I guess he says
it's hidden.
Because later it's underwater.
It's not hidden. It's hidden at the Tears of Allah.
But I like how they parallel the training sequence from the beginning of the movie with essentially Bond doing the same thing in reverse to get out of this. Like he lasers the bars open and he dangles by one hand out the window so the person comes to investigate the bars. He grabs this guy and throws him. Yeah. It's a cool... there's a couple cool water stunts based off his tower. And I will say, we should have mentioned this earlier, but this is directed by Irving Kershner, who also directed Empire Strikes Back. So the directing is very good. Like the camera movements are cool. There's some cool stunts in here.
So he swoops in on a horse and saves Domino. They run around. There's some really bad effects of the horse jumping into the water.
I don't think it's an effect. I think they just threw a horse in the water.
Well, no, the effect of them falling off the tower is fake.
Oh, yeah. Well, the horse definitely jumped off something into water.
Yeah, well, no, there's a shot of like a wide shot of the tower and this tiny little horse and people.
Yeah.
Like that's fake, but yeah, they really tossed a horse in the water.
Yeah. They also
Bond's shirt came off.
Yes, that's the part, but that's delightful. But they also they are galloping to the edge, and then it becomes like an extremely tight close up of their two faces, and they didn't have a background, so it's just like purple and blue swirlies. Like it gets psychedelic for a frame.
It's weird.
But yes, then they land in the water, and Bond has no shirt. They do show the horse swimming away, although I hope that was real.
I hope. God, I hope. The DC bomb gets diffused quickly off screen because they realize that this movie's running long.
Yes. Yeah, at this point, they're like, oh, shit, we got to get this whole thing done in 10 minutes. So we have Deus Ex Submarine, where the Leiter and the gang come and scoop them up, and then they're on the sub. And it's just really choppy editing where it's like scene, change, scene, change, scene, change. It's just like we're jumping around.
They get in these stupid flying machines.
Well, first we do her necklace is a map. And we use the map to find out where the thing is.
I was like, why did you keep that stupid necklace? It's ugly.
Right. And then there's a sequence. Well, he told her it was very valuable. So there's a sequence of scuba diving, which is kind of cool. And then these flying jetpack things that you mentioned. Sorry.
It's just so why this movie is too long for this much stupid padding.
Right.
I don't understand what it is about Bond movies that they have to be an hour 45 is a respectable movie.
Yeah, I think almost all of them are over 210.
Which is insane to me.
Yeah. No, they're slow. I mean, they're slow movies. The other thing to think about, too, is they used to be huge cable staples. I remember TNT used to run, all of them over a weekend or whatever. And they're we saw, close to 3 hours long when you run commercials in them. Yeah. All I could think of with the jetpack was Schwarzenegger in
Jingle All the Way.
Yeah, and I just was I'm yelling at the TV, Jamie!
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
They also, they're jetpacks, but they're a little tiny elevator you stand in, so
cage.
Clearly they were just on wires being, moved by a crane.
It's so dumb.
So Bond and Felix put on smaller scuba gear, and they go to find the, underwater cave entrance where Largo has hidden this bomb. And now we're doing Temple of Doom?
Yeah, Bond destroys an ancient statue. Which,
yeah, well,
it looks like the rope on the statue Largo is holding up the nuclear warhead. And I was like, if you drop that, doesn't the warhead fall and just, explode?
Yeah, I don't know. I doubt it. I doubt they're that sensitive, but maybe.
But it doesn't fall. That's the thing. He, destroys the, support thing, and it doesn't fall.
Yeah, it's they also just the idea that they threw a rope around an old statue to move this bomb is kind of nuts as well.
Yeah, this is where I wrote, I'm so bored.
This leads to a crazy gunfight that is just all that ricochet bullet noise,
tedious.
Yeah. Yeah, at this point I don't need a gunfight. I kind of want to get to the end of this movie.
Yeah, so Bond runs out and they lower a swing he's, doing a grand entrance at a pageant.
First, an explosion blocks his exit, and then they get this swing in so he can get out that way.
Yeah, and so he gets helicoptered out on a swing like he's on a parade float, and then he dives into a well.
And this leads to a fight with a henchman. Well, this leads to a little fight with a henchman where they're fist fighting underwater, which is very clunky looking, and then he finally pulls the guy's mask off. And this is where, if I'm Largo, right? If I'm the bad guy, first of all, my scuba divers are wearing both regular old swim goggles and then a mask over top of that. So if someone yanks your mask, you have goggles underneath. But beyond that, you're all spending time with your eyes open in a saltwater tank. I'm sorry. We're getting used to it. We're going to be desensitized to it, and we're going to be able to see underwater with no mask because I'm not having this happen to me.
Yeah, I agree. Also, just kill Bond. When you have him, kill him.
Yeah. Just, yeah, you could have just killed him. But I do like that the movie ends with Kim Basinger shooting Largo with a spear gun, a la Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th
That's
3D.
true.
It's just really a big delight to me. And then the final, like the denouement, as it were, is Bond and Kim Basinger in this beautiful pool and hot tub, and she brings him like a hurricane to drink, and he's like, "I always have a martini at 5." And then the door opens, and he goes in a mission to find who sneaks in, throws the guy in the pool, and it turns out to be Mr. Bean, who's like begging him to come back to work, and he says, "Never again." And she, of course, says, "Well, never say never again, James." And then we get the bad song again.
Yeah.
Oh, and he literally winks at
Yes,
the
he does.
camera. I forgot that part. He literally
Yes, he
turns and
does.
winks at the camera. Final James Bond thoughts?
It's just too long and tedious. It's not as fun as other, like, View to a Kill, I remember being fun. Like, What's-Her-Face made that movie fun.
Yeah. I did enjoy this. I do agree with you that it's long, especially when you're watching it old school with like commercial breaks and stuff. But I do think Connery is a way better Bond than Roger Moore. And I like like I said, this exists in its own universe, which is not our universe. And men are pig trash in it. And that's okay because it's a different world than ours. But yeah, I would say, especially this weird times we're living in, this is a solid way to spend a couple hours. You put it on while you're doing other stuff, maybe while you're working from home, if you're able to do that. And you can watch, you can have the time pass a little faster while you're doing this. But yeah, it's a light recommend. I would give it I would recommend it under normal circumstances. I think it's a fun Bond, not a good movie, is what I would say.
Maybe.
But you don't have to agree. That's fine. Thank you so much for listening to the show. We really, really appreciate that, of course. So our next episode drops on sort of holiday for certain people. It's April 20th. So we're going to be doing the very seasonally appropriate Class of Nukem High. It's our first trauma picture.
Is it our first trauma?
I believe so. We can figure that out later, I guess, but I'm 99% sure it's our first trauma picture. If you haven't yet, go out there and review it. I'll try the nice way instead of the mean way for once. Review the show and check it out wherever you get your podcast, and send us a screenshot if it's not on iTunes. Check us out on Facebook and send us a tweet at Dissect the 80s on Twitter. We'd love to hear from you. Give us a call at 856-DISSECT if you want to tell us something about the show or leave us a message or what have you. And of course, patreon.com/dissecting the 80s. We do a bonus episode once a quarter, and we're very close to a bonus commentary track, which will be chosen by the Patreon supporters. So get on over there and sign up, and we'll have a commentary track coming your way very shortly. You'll be able to sync that up with the movie and listen along, kind of like watching a movie with us, instead of having us talk about a movie after the fact. Thank you very much for listening. I have been Trip Lano.
I will always be Andrew Lano.
Until next time.
Don't you forget about me.
Dissecting the 80s is a Chum Some of This production.